my name's Julia Palermo with Palermo and Associates located in New York, and I'm here today to answer your pressing litigation questions. But first, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and follow me on Instagram and Twitter. All the links are in the description box below, along with my website and other information. Talking to you guys about Chapter 7 and Chapter 13 and the differences between them and which one you might qualify for and which one you might not. First off, the biggest difference is how your debt is handled. In a Chapter 7, this is called a liquidation bankruptcy. And what that means is that the trustee will try to find different things and different assets and property that you own that they can liquefy and then use that to pay off your creditors. If there is any property you own that fits into exemptions, then those won't be sold. So that's very important to know when you file for Chapter 7. Do you have exempt property or is your property non-exempt? And if it's non-exempt, then that property has to be sold to pay off your creditors. Any debts left over after this liquidation, except for a few exceptions out there, those all get discharged, and those people can't come after you, they can't collect after you, that debt is wiped free. I've talked more about this as one of the advantages to file for Chapter 7 in my earlier video. Now for Chapter 13, this is considered a reorganization. And what that means is that you get to keep your property, but you're going to have to make payments, and these payments last between 3 to 5 years. So you'll be making payments once a month to the trustee to pay off your debt, and usually this has to be an amount that is equal to how much the non-exempt property and assets that you own factor into all that. So there's a lot more that goes into these payment plans than just picking an amount. Once you do have that payment plan in place and you start making those plans, only after the 3 to 5 years, once your last payment is made, do you get the discharge. In Chapter 7, you get the discharge right after the 341 meeting, and you do your credit counseling, and you send everything goes to the judge, and then they decide, okay, everything's good, and you get your discharge. Whereas with the Chapter 13, you have to go through the whole payment process before you can get your discharge, which I'll discuss more in a future video. There's a lot more to it than just that. The other difference is going to be which one can you file? Which filing is right for you. So first off, for Chapter 7, you can only file it if you meet a certain criteria, and that is determined by what they call the means test. And the means test is a document that is filled out by you and includes your income and how much you're making per month, and whether or not that combined monthly income that you have over the course of the year to how many people are living in your household, whether or not it's under the median for your household in the area that you live in. These numbers change, so you would have to check to make sure what they are for this year. Every so often they update those numbers and change those numbers, so you have to refer to your attorney as to what those numbers are when you file. And for Chapter 13, it's something similar. You have to be an individual or sole practitioner, and you can't make more than a certain amount. You can't have more than a certain amount of unsecured debt and secured debt. Again, those numbers change, so I'm not going to put them in this video because by the time you watch it, they may not necessarily be accurate anymore. I suggest you speak to your attorney or you look them up to find out what the current numbers are. But again, you cannot have more than a certain amount of unsecured debt and a certain amount of secured debt. Now, if you're an LLC or a corporation, you can't file for Chapter 13. You may qualify for Chapter 7 if you fit in with the means test, but you can't file for 13. You'd have to file for a Chapter 11, which is a reorganization for a corporation, which is a completely different topic and very different set of requirements. Now, the other difference would be which one would you file? Which one should you file for? Should I file 7 or should I file 13? If you qualify for 7, one of the reasons you would want to file for a 7 is because you're not making a lot of money, your income's really low, you had a hardships, medical, divorce, a whole whatever it is, loss of your job, and you don't have a lot of assets that you're worried about. You don't have too much money in your bank account, not very expensive stuff at home, and so forth. Retirement accounts are usually exempt, minus a few exceptions in Chapter 7, so those don't count. But again, if you don't have very high assets and you don't make a lot of income and your property isn't in foreclosure, Chapter 7 may be best for you. If you're facing a foreclosure, have a lot of assets, make enough money to cover a plan, and you want to pay off your debts, then Chapter 13 would be a better option. I mentioned foreclosures because foreclosures have a very tricky way of going about them, and if you're in a foreclosure, you can use a Chapter 13 to save your home, but I really suggest you speak to an attorney before doing that or before filing, just so you know that you're doing the right steps necessary in order to keep your home. It's one of the things that I've done in the past. I've done many times to help people keep their homes by filing Chapter 13s, and it's been very successful. But there's different ways of doing it, and it's better to know someone and speak to an attorney who's done it before doing it yourself. Actually, I wouldn't suggest you doing it yourself, but before going forward, definitely speak to an attorney. The other thing to keep in mind is that Chapter 7 and Chapter 13 have different requirements. So for Chapter 13, for example, you have to make payments on your plan before you go to your 341 meeting, which is something that a lot of people don't know about. And I've seen people who have filed Chapter 13s on their own without an attorney, not knowing they have to make these payments, and then they have their case dismissed. Now, we want a discharge, not a dismissal. Those are two different things. A discharge means our debt's gone. A dismissal means the case is gone. So you want to be very careful that you don't get a dismissal. In Chapter 7, you don't have to make any payments. That's not a requirement. The trustee doesn't expect any payments. So knowing the different requirements for you, depending on the bankruptcy you file, is also really, really important. So you want to keep that in mind before you make your first filing. And definitely speak to your attorney before you file. What are the requirements? Which one's right for you? And really get an idea of what works best based on your particular set of circumstances, because everyone has different income, different assets, different situations, and you want to make sure that you're picking the appropriate chapter based on your particular situation. Anyway, if you like this video or have any other questions, concerns, comments, or you're interested in any topics, please let me know in the comments below, and have a great day.